Hello, and welcome to another episode of the One-on-One podcast. I am Josh. I'm in the studio in Laguna Niguel, California, with my good friend Ryan Esteban, our video producer. Hi, Ryan.
What's up?
And Kathy Baker, my co-host. How are you, Kathy?
I'm great. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm excited because we have another guest who is sitting in the studio with us.
Are we really excited about him?
We are. I mean, I think our network is more excited than we are.
All right, fair enough.
You know, but it's always nice. My mom always used to say warm bodies, like whenever we're having people over, and it's just like you just want to have like warm bodies there. So we're so happy he's here, and I'm going to introduce him in a second. But before I do, I want to ask you guys a question that is going to relate to our guest, because we were off camera kind of talking about some old movies and TV shows, and his references kind of flew over our heads. So I'm very curious. Let's just start. Ryan and Kathy, I want to know, what was your guys' favorite childhood TV show? Either of you start.
Childhood TV show. I grew up on a lot of 90s sitcoms.
Mm-hmm, same.
I'm born in 1990, just to like give us ourselves a gauge, I guess. Mm-hmm. So growing up, it was a lot of, Full House, Family Matters, Fresh Prince. Like I also like lived overseas. So like growing up, we only got certain channels. I didn't have cable or anything. So we only got whatever the military was willing to give us to watch. So there's a lot of that. And then, obviously as a kid, we cartoons and stuff. So Rugrats and Doug was big at our house.
Those are good answers. What about you, Kathy?
I'm old, and I'm going to tell a story. I'm going to tell a Vinny story. So I'm going to make.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. Everybody get ready. No, I was when I was young, the Daniel Boone Show. And I thought that was the coolest. Okay, you're making fun. Don't make fun.
No, we're not. We're not. I promise.
Okay, the Daniel Boone Show. But what made it so incredible was that was one of the first TV shows that was a weekly show that was in color.
Oh, cool.
Okay. And Rebecca had red hair. And I remember just could not wait for that to come on, because at the beginning he threw this should be revealing. He threw this axe and the tree split, and I remember thinking, that's the man I want.
That's a man's man.
Throwing, bear killing. There you go.
I love that. Well, I think before I say mine, you guys know that if you haven't been listening to our previous episodes, you guys know that I'm obsessed with Conan O'Brien, and he actually just talked about this on one of his most recent podcasts, where he talked about when he grew up, and even when Ryan and I were growing up, and our guest, he called it appointment television. And I love that phrase because it's, at 6 or 7 o'clock at night that Boy Meets World is on a Friday night, or MASH is on, or whatever. And so you build your day around it. And I don't think that we now live in a world where you have everything available. And so anyways, I could talk about this forever. My favorite is Seinfeld. And if it's not Seinfeld, it's SpongeBob, because that's what I grew up on. Yep. Now I'm going to introduce our guest, because I'm sure whatever he says, no one's going to know it.
Let me cue up the crickets sound effect.
I'm gonna get this right this time. Our VP of Growth Marketing, Sevag Sarkissian, is back for your fifth? Is this your fifth episode?
I don't.
Five Timers Club yet?
I think it is.
You guys keep losing bets, so you have me on.
Sevag, before we get into whatever we're going to talk about today, what is your favorite childhood TV show?
I'll start with Benson.
I know that.
And there we go.
Thank you. In the 80s, it was Benson. Who's the boss? Mr. Belvedere. At night, my mom would take it over the remote control, and our remote control was a brown rectangular box with a brown cord. And you had to flip over.
I love how it's a remote control and it's still plugged in.
and I remember distinctly the feeling of when your finger pressed the button, and it was the buttons were so plastic and hard and rigid that you would almost cut your finger by pressing the button down. And then she would just take over and put on Knots Landing and Dynasty.
Okay.
But as you get into the teenage years, and I was obsessed with the show Wings.
Yeah.
Wings and Seinfeld.
And
then you get into...
I know all those shows. And just so you know, Savant, I was the remote control.
There you
My
go.
dad would say, "Get up, Kathy, turn the TV." And that was,
Rotate the contrast wheel.
I could literally talk about this for an entire episode, and maybe one day we.
Did you have a VCR?
All right, so we're really going to go down this road. So, my family took a vacation when I was a freshman in high school to Yellowstone. We drove from Southern California to Yellowstone, and my parents bought a little 12-inch television that had a DVD player built into it, and so my brothers and I could watch movies on the trip up. My gift at the end of the trip was I got that 12-inch TV with the DVD player built in my room, and I was also given the 9 DVD discs of Seinfeld, and so that is actually where my love and obsession comes from Seinfeld.
Hey, Ryan, were you in Naples?
Yeah, pretty
So
much.
did they send you video tape of
Oh,
the Lakers
man.
like they did the Kobe?
We had a lot of VHSs. I still have like VHS collections, so that was definitely we grew up on that. I feel like we're the last ones.
So I was talking about this with my wife the other day. People were obsessed with collecting DVDs. So you see their bookshelf
Yeah.
of then Blu-rays came out. Like, oh, I got to have the same DVD but on Blu-ray. How many of those are collecting dust in someone's garage right now?
We could bring Nima in right now. I'm sure he's got quite a
Nima's
few.
probably got it all.
That's a good transition, though, before we go down this rabbit hole anymore.
It was fun because, I mean, I have a sign right here that doesn't even have the batteries on.
We're going to chat today about your state of mind in 2025, how things have changed, how businesses has changed, and our brand is changing with the industry. And we're going to touch on a little bit. Technology is changing. There's now the rise of AI. We brought you on for a reason, Sevag. You are a digital guru. You have a great pulse on not only the industry, but kind of like what's trending in the overall marketing realm. And we really want you to just pep talk a lot of our professionals that maybe need a kick in the pants or maybe need a reminder of it's possible. 2025 can be a good year. So let's start there.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to come up through a generation, a time where everything was changing and evolving at such a pace where once it got to the 2000s, whatever was changing, it was changing fast. That was even changing while it was changing. So you always had to be ready to learn, ready to adapt. And my antennas were up, and I'm like, okay, let's go, let's do this, because you need to keep up. Growing up in where you had a different type of computer in your school to a different type of computer where you had in college, and now completely different. Whereas you have generations where it's static. It's the same. They don't have to switch. They don't have to relearn. And now we're coming up with, in real estate, rethinking the market and relearning the market and how folks are in the right mindset to be able to take advantage of that. With digital and marketing, I'm counting my blessings because I've been fortunate enough to be part of almost every single evolution when digital was evolving and coming to. When folks had to go offline to online in the 90s and start really making their presence and their identity. And then you go into paid advertising, and then you go into the whole psychology and the competitiveness. So everything has evolved. And you just have to keep up with it.
Yeah. I think that's, Kathy, I want to know, you always talk about the industry being a shifting, not a shifting market. I can't remember the phrase that you use, but it's cyclical, right? It's constantly changing. We're going to have ups and we're going to have downs, and you've been through a couple of them. What maybe have you seen? We're still in this quote unquote tough market. What have you maybe seen in the last year or two that has been a difference maker for people still finding success in this challenging market?
I think consistency, and I think always being a learner, to Sevag's point. And to that point, since I'm the oldest by far on this chat, I think what's so important about what Sevag is saying is you don't have to know it all, but you have to know enough to go to that next evolution.
Yeah.
Because it is constantly evolving. And those people panic and go, oh, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. We're not saying whatever it is, use it wholeheartedly. I don't think. I think we're saying everything is a tool. And if my generation of realtor, when I first got into real estate, we waited for that stupid blue book that came out every 2 weeks. And if you think about that was before anything was online. And I remember that evolution of people saying, oh, we're going to go out of business because now listings are available publicly. And it's just evolved since that. Well, the people that still want the book are out of business.
Yeah.
So I think the people over the past 12 months that are the most excited are the people that are embracing what can this next tool do for me
Yeah.
to create a better experience?
Yeah.
Don't become the tool.
Well,
Don't be a tool.
I don't want to spend too much time on this because we have called out my hypocrisy multiple times on this subject matter on this podcast. But I obviously talked a lot of shit on ChatGPT for many, many months. And now in my role at this company, outside of this podcast, I have many other responsibilities outside of this podcast. Please
do tell.
It is my greatest employee. I will put it to you that way. You and I talk about ChatGPT every single day.
What's your nickname?
We're not going to go down there, but I always tell Sevag it's a conversation starter for me. You know, a bulk of my work at this company is writing and idea making, and I'm no longer sitting at my desk alone. That's the way I feel about it. And so to your point, Kathy, I naysayed this tool for so long. I have a background in writing. I don't need this, blah, 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 blah. And then I didn't become the tool, to Sevag's point, but I started utilizing it, and it has made my work not only easier, but better. It's truly made it better. And so maybe, I'm not saying chatbots specifically, but Sevag, to that point, like, or even Ryan, like the idea of like when overnight we went from photo to video, literally overnight. Like nobody wanted a static photo anymore. Everyone wanted a moving image. Like, can you guys kind of talk about maybe what is that current thing right now, or what is one of those things that people need to not be afraid of and utilize, even though we might be in its infancy?
Well, Josh GPT. I will say, we're going to make that a t-shirt, Josh GPT. Okay. These things don't happen overnight. It's not a flip of a switch. Everything is ongoing. It was inevitable. The pivot to video over photo and static and words, that was always going to happen. Mm-hmm. We knew. It was just having the structure, having an organization. But folks who use it, this is an old Phil Jackson quote, being aware is more important than being smart. Awareness is everything. So have your antenna up and know what's going on in the world around you, whether it's the market. How do you position yourself in it, and what are the tools that you're using? And don't be a tool. Do you have the right tools? Do you need to reanalyze the software that you're using? Kathy brought up the old way of the blue book. I kind of laughed at the last one prime time when Darlene was talking about how things were done even like 15, 20 years ago. And it's like, okay, wow, things have evolved. But you have to have the awareness to know that these things are going to happen. Mm-hmm. With AI, it was a point of machine learning that came about, and things that could be predicted, and then this output that they would know, and then it just evolved and got smarter. How are you preparing yourself to be able to do that and be organized ahead of time? That way you're not behind the 8 ball trying to keep up. Mm-hmm. While your competitors, while your peers, they're out making money, they're out growing their business, growing their brand and expanding, but you didn't do anything. You just sat there and stuck with the status quo because you got too comfortable. Yeah.
I think, Kathy, to kind of reference one of our previous episodes, we had Adrian Provost on, and, the guy he's just such a seeker of knowledge.
He's a stud.
He is. But, Kathy, I know you really emphasize that at this company, is just always being a learning-based professional. And I know Sevag is a learning-based professional. And I guess I'm asking both of you, if that's not how you're wired. You're natural, since the first day I met you, Sevag, when we had a Manhattan and Las Vegas together. Mm-hmm. So you are wired that way. What are some tips? I don't know if this is too hard of a question to answer for both of you. Like, how do you inspire yourself? How do you be in the pulse of what's happening and what's next and what's trending. Like I know we offer a lot of tools and stuff at this company, but I think it's more than that. I think it's more of a shift in a mindset.
To me, I'm competitive. My competitive juice is going and get out of my way. It's like the Mamba mentality, right, Ryan?
Love it. I was waiting for one of those in this episode.
It's if you're not set, if you're not competitive, and if you're not serious about your business, you're put the L on your forehead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go back to the wisdom of what you said earlier, Josh, regarding you're now not sitting at the desk by yourself. What I would encourage people to do is allow this to be your assistant. And I think we have a generation coming up, and this is not meant to be disparaging. It's meant to be aware. That if somebody had said to me, Kathy, you're a really high I, high D personality, and you're going to be listing the home of 2 engineers, which are high C's, what do you say?
Yeah.
And what do you not say? And allow, ChatGPT, quite honestly, is shit in, shit out. You got to put the right stuff in to get the right stuff out.
Absolutely.
Right? Can I just be blunt in that?
Yeah.
So if I had had that as a tool, I would have killed it on listings and sellings, because I wouldn't have stumbled over smiling and looking goofy and thinking I was going to win someone who was my opposite behavior. I would have just known how to communicate. And I think we've got a generation that if they'll go to 30,000 feet and say, where are my weaknesses and how do I do things better, and ask the right questions, they can leverage a lot into technology and achieve greater success.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say building competence is
I was going to touch like it's Kathy, it's competence and confidence. I was going to say,
Yes.
you're
Yes.
you're going to Kathy's point, you walk into a room with people that you have nothing in common with, nothing to say. What do you like? You're going to,
Do you want me to say it, or do you want to say it?
go ahead.
It's your favorite TV show growing up,
Seinfeld.
George Costanza syndrome.
Yeah. Please explain.
Where you have your confidence.
Be careful with telling people to be like George Costanza. I just want to say that, but go ahead.
I'll tell you, don't be like George Costanza, because you can have this false confidence based on no competence. And you can walk into a room and just throw things out as if you have it in a confident manner, but in reality, it's incorrect. And it's a bunch of BS. There's going to be people in the room that could read it.
You're going to get caught immediately.
You're going to get caught immediately. Flip it around.
Yeah.
Be more competent. Do your learning. I mean, we have an incredible program with Kathy, with One Coaching, that can get you to that competence level where you can stay ahead of the game and keep building.
I think I know you answered it's your competitive spirit, which I would argue, I'm a seeker of knowledge like you as well. And I think part of it for me is my competitive spirit as well. But I think that's more of what I'm trying, and I apologize for like re-asking this question, but how do you teach that to someone? How do you tell someone to wake up the next day and realize that, I'm not saying that what they were doing was not good enough with their business, but there's other things out there that they can be utilizing to make their business better. Like how do you teach that? Because or am I just asking a question that can't be answered?
No, and the thing I'm going to bring it to specifically real estate. I think the thing that most people love about real estate, and we say this often, Mark and I say often, real estate is simple, not easy. And I think the thing I love about real estate is there's so many different ways to make money. And think about it like lanes on a highway. And the people that are really successful use multiple lanes.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's an identifying, man, you're going the speed limit and you're even going wickedly fast in that. What other lanes do we need to do? And I think back to Sevag's point, that's coaching. Where are you great? And what are you sacrificing that's good, that could be great? And I think that's where technology is that bridge. It takes you from, I'm pretty good at this, to being great at this. Adrian, back to your reference in the commercial, that's such a different business in residential. But it doesn't mean you can't do both.
Yeah. I think, sorry, you just made me think of you'll appreciate this. Growing up, I had a coach, and I still use this phrase to this day, but he would always tell me, play to my strengths. I'm obviously not an expert in every single thing on the field. Play to your strengths. There's 10 other players on the field that are experts in those other areas that are going to help you get the ball in the goal or whatever. And I think we now live in a world where you play to your strengths, right? We all have our strengths, but then you have things like ChatGPT, for example, where you now have a whole new army or arsenal of strengths that were never once possible. And so it really just comes down to I know I keep harping on this, but the change in mindset, the mentality of, okay, this is, I have X, Y, and Z. I now have A, B, C, D at my disposal. How can I put this all together to produce something successful? Does that make any sort of sense?
No, it does, because you're using the tools that are provided to you to bring a realization to you of what you could do. And this is a great opportunity to make mistakes.
Yeah.
I love making mistakes.
I do too.
And if you make a mistake, you learn from it. It's going to create more advantageous opportunity.
What's the biggest mistake you've ever made in your life? I'm kidding. Don't answer that.
Oh God. I was like, oh, do I got to mute the mic?
You want to know what biggest mistake in my life? Ryan, close your ears. I had an opportunity to go to Kobe Bryant's 81-point game.
Oof.
Oh no.
And you didn't, obviously.
And I chose something else.
I can say I got to see him play live. I'm very, very, very happy about that.
So, but yeah, well, unfortunately, that didn't give me I learned from it not to pass up so I can have more opportunity. But you make those practical and those technical mistakes. You use ChatGPT, use other AI tools, and use them, and don't slap yourself and don't get down and don't say, I'm not going to do this anymore just because you weren't able to be successful the first one or two times. You have to keep going. Look at what your mistakes were, obviously, and pinpoint where you could learn and relearn, and then make that into opportunity. Then you're like, oh, wow, now that is a skill set I have because I was proud to make that mistake. I was risky enough. I was brave enough. And I also was proactive enough to learn from it and then put it into my arsenal.
I love that. And it is mindset. We know that until the pain of where you are is greater than the fear of change, you will remain the same.
Yeah.
And back to your mindset, until it's so dang painful where you are because you didn't go to the game or you made that mistake, and until you're willing to learn from it and identify it, you're going to stay really uncomfortable. And I think technology and I don't think I'm speaking just to my generation. I think there's a lot of fear behind it. Yeah. And I think the fear is not only utilizing it, but I think the fear is replacement.
Yeah.
If I use this really well, I'm not going to be needed. And it work in partnership, work beside it, not against it, is I think the big message here.
I couldn't agree more, Kathy.
Hey, Josh, what about using technology?
Oh my God. We're going to try something new really quick before we end this episode.
I'm just getting started.
We're at 24 minutes right now. So
people have time. They're in traffic right now.
We're going to try to do an ad here. You guys have probably listened to some podcasts in the past where, let's just, reference one of my heroes, Conan, where he just reads some ads and it's hilarious content because the guy is hilarious. I'm not that funny, but we're going to attempt to do a little ad space here for one of our partners, Rate My Agent, right, Sevag?
We want to bring awareness.
We do want to bring awareness. We have a great one marketplace and a great one tool chest for all of our agents in our entire network. And I think the adoption rate is not where it should be. Would you agree with that?
It could be better.
Yeah. And so let's start with one of our biggest partners, which is Rate My Agent. So can you tell me what Rate My Agent
You want your business to grow?
Yeah.
You want your Google Juice Kathy to get increased?
Yeah.
That's, Rate My Agent's your easiest thing to do right now.
And tell me what it does for Google and SEO specifically.
You collect the reviews. It puts it on that platform. It sends it to Google. It can syndicate it everywhere. And then it creates every review. It's basically its own web page for you, tied to your business.
Kathy,
isn't that incredible?
Kathy, I just recorded my first commercial.
Wow.
I love it.
Wow.
Well, that's all we have today. Sevag, thank you so much for...
Where are we going?
That was great.
Where are we going?
But
Ryan hasn't talked yet.
But seriously,
one more link.
Okay, go.
I just want to say, on the mistakes and opportunity, I made the mistake of missing Kobe's 81-point game. And then my wife reminded me of that when I was like, should I buy a ticket to the biggest game in 2024 in the LA market? And should I go to the MLS Cup? And I'm glad I did, because that's when the LA Galaxy won their 6th cup.
Did he just say the biggest game in the LA market?
I knew he was going
The
there.
Dodgers won the World Series last year.
Yeah, in New York.
I love you, Sevag. All right, well, we're going to have you back.
Another thing.
We're going to have you back because we want to hear more of your mistakes in life.
Can we have fresh batteries in this thing next time I come?
Get out of here, all right? End the episode.
Kathy,
And there's a cutting board. I just realized there's been a cutting board for the past 2 years.
it's just holding the table down. Don't lift it up.
Okay, it's a weight.
Kathy, thank you. Ryan, thank you. Sevag, you're Sevag.
Yeah.
This has been a wonderful episode. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the One-on-One Podcast, powered by Realty One Group. For more information, questions, or concerns, please reach out to coaching@realtyonegroup.com.